Good morning and welcome, Sheldon.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here.
We are so happy to have you here and really honored to be here with you today. So, Cheldin Barlatt Rumer and I were introduced by a mutual friend, Megan O'Neill, who was actually on a recent episode on Conscious Corner. And she spoke about her transition from having been a litigator to a health and fitness instructor or coach, and she raved about you, Sheldon.
Oh,
She
I love
said,
her. She's
I
the
love her.
best, the
She
absolute
is.
best, the absolute. I'm missing her just based on my time here. She's a wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
She is. She is. And she said, Courtney, you have to meet this incredible woman. And so I did, and I'm really so very glad that I did.
Oh, thank
So
you.
so
Thank you.
thank you again.
Of course. This is fun. This is super, super fun. I'm glad to be here. I am an open book. So you let me
Didn't
know.
realize, Sheldon, I'm looking. I didn't realize you were totally local. I didn't realize you were like a
Yeah,
Drexel LaSalle girl.
yeah,
Like I got
100%.
okay, so real quick, I'm gonna to go totally off topic because this is what I like to do. So this are you a Phillies fan or an Eagles fan?
100. You
I'm
know
like
better. You know better. But go ahead.
I
Yes,
am
I am.
out of my mind. Like there's something wrong with me. So if you see this shirt I'm wearing,
Pass Young. Yeah.
it's
I have it.
Passion Avenue, which is, you know, Passion Avenue is, but
Of course.
it's a restaurant and bar in London that is all dedicated to everything Philly. So I found it last year, like as in Bobby Clark from the Flyers and, you know, Roy Halladay from the, like, it's completely Philly. So we went there. My husband and I went to London because he planned it during the NLCS. It was like the playoffs for the Phillies. And I was like, how did you plan a trip? But anyway, so we go there. I'm like, we have to stay up all night and watch the games. So we found Passyunk Avenue. Long story short, I didn't know you were, that makes you even
Yes.
better.
I'm rooted. I am rooted in, I currently reside in Southern New Jersey, so right over the bridge, which is, 20.
It still counts.
But at the same time, I went to LaSalle University. I'm an adjunct professor at Temple University where I teach personal branding and I teach social media strategy at Drexel. So before pandemic, I like to say BQ before quarantine, we had a small studio in Broad and Chestnut. And so Philadelphia is like, I'm part of all
Gotta
the
love
things,
a
all
Philly
the
girl.
things. Yeah.
Love
So
it. Anyway, I just want to tell you that's why I'm wearing this. I wasn't being like lazy wearing
I
a
love,
baseball shirt. It's Passyunk Avenue. It's Philly season. We got to get a spark back.
you
So
got to get in it. Oh, I
yeah,
love that though. I love that. I love that. I love that. When
I'm
you're
glad
from
you're
Philly or
well,
from the
makes
Philly
me even better
area, regardless of where you are, you're always from Philly, from the
for my
Philly area.
roots
So yeah.
always. So
Oh, I love it.
And I'm born and raised in Philly, but I'm your neighbor now. I'm in South Jersey as well, and
See?
really close to
It's
your
so
new studio.
close. It's
Yeah,
so close. People often say, they're like, oh gosh, do you want to come in to the city? I'm like, it is nothing. Like, not a
it's
big deal.
nothing. It's a
Let me
quick
pay the toll.
bridge.
I will
yeah.
gladly pay the toll and I will see you in a half
Only
hour.
one way. Only one way, Peggy.
Only
So
one
you're
way.
good. Yeah.
Please. Listen, if that discourages you, then you shouldn't be
And
coming over
you're
anyway.
not my people.
Relax. It's just a toll. We're fine. We're fine. I'll see you guys over the bridge.
Well, Sheldon, I would love to
Yeah,
let listeners hear
for
a bit
sure.
about your professional journey
For
and
sure.
specifically to learn more about your Scream, your
Yeah,
dream mission.
for sure.
And then I know, but I want to share with listeners the fact that you're an expert in personal
Yeah,
branding and
yeah,
coaching, and then perhaps gain some insight into the ways in which you use your regular practice of mindfulness to literally do it all.
yeah.
Like I thought I did it all, but you're a wife,
Yeah,
you're a mom of two
I am.
young children,
Yeah, crazy.
and on top of that, you have this amazing business, or I should say businesses that you run. So if you could just take us
Sure,
through about your journey into
sure,
personal
sure.
branding.
I think a lot of people ask, when did you realize you were supposed to do what you're doing? Or how did you realize you were supposed to do what you're doing? And I think that I've always known, but giving myself room and time and space to say who it is I am fundamentally can be a profession. And I don't think a lot of people give themselves the time. I think that they find who they are when they do that, and they try to put an occupation on top of it or force an occupation into it, where I let my occupation be a reflection of who I am. And what I mean by that is that I'm sure the individuals who are listening right now, or if they're lucky enough to be watching right now, they can feel my madness. Like, I just have an energy about me, and I've had this about me, to my parents' dismay, since I was probably 4 or 5 years old, right? In life, you can often hear me before you see me. You're like, oh, Cheldin's here somewhere. I can't see her, but I can hear her, right? I'm
I
just
can't
that
relate
way.
at all. I just can't relate
Right,
at all.
right? You are my
I do.
people. You are my people. And it's just that way. And oftentimes when you're younger, you're asked to calm down or to be shushed or to relax. And those are 3 things you physically cannot say to me. I personally think I have a medical condition, the inability to whisper. I can't do it. I physically can't do it. I don't know if it's been studied.
That's because
I don't,
God doesn't want you to whisper, girl.
right, I just physically can't do it. And so in my journey, that has always been, in essence, my superpower, the ability to transfer energy, to change the energy in the room. People are sad, I can make them happy. It's just, it does sound a little woo-woo, but it happens. And for anybody who's met me or engaged with me, these are the types of things in which they said. And so when I was in PR and marketing and events, and that's really where I started my career, post sales, it was really much smiling and dialing and cold calling after college and selling help wanted ads for a medical practitioner magazine, to the delusions of grandeur of being, a talk show host, which was always really the goal. To be specific, I really wanted to be on MTV when MTV was a thing. I wanted to be, letting Eminem on stage at spring break. Like, that was like the ideal job.
Like Jenny McCarthy was it for you.
100%. And that's didn't really manifest itself in the suburbs of Pennsylvania. But at the same time, I had to kind of figure out, where I belonged. And PR and marketing made the most sense to me. There was nothing, and then there was something. There was an idea and a concept. You created a graphic, you created an email, you sent an invite, and there was a line around the corner. Like, that adrenaline really is what drove me in my young business, and my enthusiasm and my ability to share and create energy helped in filling those rooms. It helped in selling those products. It helped in making that make sense. So early in my career, I was lucky enough to open Borgata Hotel, Casino and Spa in Atlantic City. I grew up in southern New Jersey, Atlantic County, which is closer to the shore points. And really had an opportunity at that point to see products and people and places all really come together, and the ability to tell a story, to get people excited about something. After leaving Borgata, I went back to Philadelphia to start my own agency, and found that, when working especially with people who have small budgets or people who are independent or entrepreneurs, that they had a harder time finding their voice, right? Where I was overly enthusiastic, the cupcake lady, the jewelry lady, couldn't really tell somebody why somebody should buy their chocolate chip cookies or why somebody shouldn't. And I found that tragic. I mean, these women had remortgaged their homes. They had missed birthday parties for this business that they loved so much, but they could not put together the words or articulate why somebody should pay attention to them. And I found that to be so sad, right? And such a waste of potential. And so, because I wanted to be on TV, because I wanted to be a storyteller, and all of the things, I was documenting things before that was a thing for social. And I had a camera in my, office drawer. I pulled it out and I just started interviewing people who were my clients, people who were in my office, just to get it out, right? I think that oftentimes it's sitting next to somebody who wants to hear your story, having people ask questions that are inquisitive and not just transactional, right? Just really caring about on the other end. I was able to ask these questions, their posture changed, my energy changed, everything felt great. And at that moment, I literally said, this is it. This is all I want to do. And This Is It Network really stemmed from that. And so from that point on, all I kept doing was telling stories, to the point where I was interviewing 1 to 5 women per day, and broadcasting their stories on platforms that I owned independently, supporting that with social media, learning the art of personal branding, even though I really didn't coin it as such or create a curriculum around it until guests were asking. Scream Your Dream was just a hashtag, just because I was loud, to be quite honest. And then, guests would ask, how do I scream my dream? And I said, how do you? And the curriculum really came from that. I recently wrote a book called Scream Your Dream, 66 Lessons to Build Your Personal Brand. And so I'm beating that
Congrats.
hashtag to death. And so all of it is really about, elevating the
I met
voices
you
of women.
a few years too late. I'm so super bummed right now. I did
Why?
it all by myself. I built this business from nothing. I could have used you. I'm so upset.
Listen, it is a muscle. It is a muscle because one of the big things that I'm working on right now is the ability to reintroduce yourself to yourself, right? So when I first started This Is It Network, I'm not the same woman today as I was then. And oftentimes people in our lives treat us as they knew us and not as we are. And so what we need to do is continuously be reintroducing ourselves to people in our current state. And so I see personal branding as a muscle that you use on a regular basis versus, okay, this is what my brand and this is what it's always going to be. I think in the digital space, we have tools available to us now. I'm old enough to remember MySpace and Vine and things that no longer exist, where now we have TikTok and Zap and all these other things. And so how do we evolve with the technology so we can continue to be storytellers? So that's what I'm teaching on a regular basis.
I
My
love it.
shows
And
are
it's
just
so
super
important.
fun.
And you have to have, I can feel your passion, not only passion,
Yeah.
but your empathy
Yeah,
around, which is my thing,
Yeah.
and authenticity, which is the other thing around what you do. But it's really less about the personal branding and way more about
Yeah.
helping people and impacting
Yeah.
them on making them be able to show who they are, which I love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there's so many people, we call the folks, the ladies that watch us, remarkable women. And remarkable by definition means worthy of attention. And I think that, a lot of people think they have to be something different or do something different or act in a different way when the majority of people don't even know what you offer in your most basic level, right? You are so worried about being someone else when you haven't even introduced yourself as you are. And so I think that people are surprised when they just simply share that it doesn't feel like bragging when it's the truth, right? When it's not
Relate more.
embellished.
I love that message. I mean,
Yeah.
part of starting a business, I'm a coach, is
Yeah.
was getting out there and just telling people. Always say, how did you do it? How did you get that many followers? Not that
Yeah.
that's important, but I just told my story. I was doing videos before people were doing videos. On my phone, I'm Annie, this is what I'm doing, this is really hard, my kids are screaming in the other room, and I really could have used you. But that aside, yeah, I know what you mean about you just have a really solid mission, and I love your energy around it, and I really, it's amazing. Like I'm really psyched to meet you.
I'm still stuck on the image, Sheldon. I would pay big bucks to see you on stage with Eminem. Like I still can't get that.
Listen, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Marshall, if you're listening, we can hang out.
And you know what? I did find out Marshall does listen to this podcast, so preach.
Obviously.
You know what I mean?
I'll let him know. He's busy, but maybe he'll make some time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And can you tell us a little bit more about, I personally experienced Scream Your Dream for the first time last month. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because just your energy here with us, like it's palpable. You can feel it across through the screen, however that superpower of yours works. But it was contagious with all of the boxes of women. And there were a lot of women, entrepreneurs and people looking to really share some of their wins and what they're looking to do in their respective expertise. It was felt like your energy carries through and really does uplift and empower other women. So I love for listeners to get more insight as to what exactly the mission is there.
Sure. So we really want to elevate the voices of women and giving them the tools to be able to speak their truth as it is today, right? And I think that a lot of people, the idea of faking it till you make it was a concept that we all grew up, understanding, idolizing, looking to attain to. And I really hate that phrase. I think that there's a longingness to be something else, meaning where it is you are and who it is you are currently unworthy or currently unnecessary, or you must be at a specific level in order to gain success. And I think that we all need to really look at ourselves as our whole selves in this moment. And how can we find the words today to share what we need in this moment? as opposed to waiting, which we will tend to do, right? We will tend to justify why we aren't ready, why the website isn't ready. We'll change the font 16 times. We'll rewrite the copy 12 times. We'll keep things in drafts forever because we don't think that anyone needs what it is that we have, when that is not the case. You do not need 1 million followers to make $1 million. You need the right people to be able to pay attention to what you have going on. And so screaming your dream isn't about the volume, but the intention of your voice. It's about making sure you're saying the right things in the right rooms to the right people. So 5 people can change your life. You don't need 5,000 people to change your life.
Right.
And so how do we give people the tools to do that? How do we ensure that they know what I call your unique equation, which is who you are, what you want, and why you deserve it? If you know those 3 things, you can begin and continue any conversation. And those 3 things could change as you evolve. Cheldin at 21 is not the same as Cheldin at 46, right? And so how can we utilize our stories of today to get us where we are? So it started with me identifying that there was a group of remarkable people that just simply didn't have the words, that needed to practice who they were, what they wanted, and why they deserved it so they could share it with other people, and creating a curriculum around that. Then it was creating what you attended last month, was a community of people, oftentimes myself included, right? The remarkable woman that really pays attention to this is at Network. It tends to fall within the sandwich generation, age-wise, 30 to 55, but that sandwich generation. I'm so lucky to have 2 of my parents still here, 79 years old. My mother will kill me for telling her age, but that's what it is. I have two young kids, as you mentioned. I have a 13-year-old daughter who, again, is testing me every day. I have a 6-year-old son who still loves my face. And so, I'm married, I'm doing all these things.
Yeah.
I control, and I'm a part of all of those lives, right? The goldfish, the vet, the doctor's appointment, the dentist, I'm putting lashes on, I'm combing my weave, I want to wear $90 stretch pants. Like, all of these things, this one woman is managing seamlessly, unapologetically. And my goodness, wants to run her own business. Oh my goodness, wants to see her friends for brunch. All of those things. And what happens is, we're often told, again, like that 5-year-old that was told to relax, often told, oh, you're doing too much. Like, oh my gosh, aren't you tired? Oh my God, all the things that are led to believe that you have kind of hit your limit, as opposed to giving you resources to manage the life that you want. And so This Is It Network is just a soft place to land. Scream Your Dream gives you the tools in order to keep going, to find the voice to be able to do it. And the community is there to say, especially for ambitious women, we have a hard time, admittedly, saying we don't know, or we can't, or we're not sure. Most of us are the ones being like, we're fine, we're fine, we're fine. Or I got it, right? When you're not fine and you don't got it, right? So our community allows for you to be ambitious, but also gives you that soft place to be like, does anyone have an IP lawyer? Hey, does anyone know about SEO? I'm confused. How's everybody doing on TikTok? Or, oh my gosh, I'm 2 away from 500 followers on Instagram. Do you mind liking the page? And next thing you know, they're up to 600, right? That's the space that I need. So selfishly, I've created. And so screaming your voice isn't necessarily just knowing what to say. It's actively saying it to an audience of people who want to hear it. So that's what Scream Your Dream is. Yeah.
So beautiful. Number 1, I'm going to reframe real quick, even though you're very framed correctly, but selflessly created.
Yes.
So I'm going to change that around. Selflessly created. Number 2, sometimes when I have a number 2, I forget, but I remember because I wrote down, are more people, I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure for the listeners, are more people coming to you with an established business and saying, I want to do more, or I don't know what I've evolved to, or more like you said, the bakery, the donut lady, right? That doesn't have her voice at all.
Right. It's a combination. I mean, we really talk to leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives, right? Because when you recognize, and it wasn't always this way, right? Like you got a job, you worked for a company, you retired, you got a watch, you were kind of done, right? That was it. Even if you were employed to begin with. Now you're like Megan, our dear friend, who not only had a job, but was a lawyer, went to law school, practiced, was successful, and now is in a fitness business. So not only are we going hard in one direction, we're pivoting harder in another direction, which may make even the most sane person feel as if they're crazy. Like, what am I doing? I dedicated time and money and resources and sacrificed for this industry business that no longer suits me, that I have outgrown, right? And so many people in our lives, I'm sure in Megan's life, told her she was nuts. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna
That's
go,
the thing. It's the influence of are you kidding?
right,
It's like, yeah, are you going to give that all
right.
up? Look what you did. And then you're not living how your fulfilled life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have big issues like maybe Megan's transition or pivot. Then you have a woman who has, 3 cupcake businesses and is like, I want to shut down my Langhorn business and is feeling a certain type of way about it when she knows that that's what she's supposed to be doing, right? Or she's bringing everything online and shutting down all her brick and mortar. Or she's been successful online and she wants to open a brick and mortar, right? And doesn't necessarily have a soft place to land. She has people, even the closest people in her life, telling her she's nuts, right? And not really having people who understand or get her who want to be able to say, hey, I played Division I field hockey at LaSalle. And so the example that I use is your huddle. And the huddle is the best way to explain it for me. In that huddle, I knew whose parents were getting divorced. I knew who was failing, out of their major. I knew whose ankle was hurt, right? But we still had to play the game. We could have lost that game. We still had to go to practice on Monday, right? We still had to come look ourselves in the face, look at the tape, review it, do the whole thing. That's why Scream Your Dream is like your huddle. It's no one's going to tell you to quit. We're just going to review tape and rework the play. And that's a different feeling than going to someone who's like, why don't you just become the director of marketing at the Hyatt? Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like telling you to just completely quit your ambition. There's a difference between
why do you
that.
have these dreams? Just do
Right.
what you're supposed to do.
Right. Just do what
Stay
you're
in
supposed
your
to.
box.
Right, exactly. And so we allow for us to be outside of the box and people just help us in figuring out what we should do while we're inside there. So it's been a really great, and it's really been one of those situations where I really tap into what I need at the moment. And I realize that I'm not alone in that need. And I talk to again, selfishly or self-fulfilling, like I talk to so many women who are so like-minded and are thirsty for this opportunity in a way that they feel quenched right after a Scream Your Dream meetup, or they feel really great after a keynote speech that I provide, or after an article or a blog that they have read from our newsletter or from our site. And so that's why I show up, whether it's one woman or whether it's thousands of women.
Sorry, Sheldon, I didn't want to cut you. I will say from that one meeting, I was so inspired and uplifted. I think I wrote some of my greatest content for like the coming weeks. I sat down, I said, because a couple things were sort of triggered when I was sitting listening to other people. And so I said, I'm just going to jot down a few things. 2 hours later, I was like, oh, I have the whole month of July mapped out.
100%.
But it was really, it was very empowering. And,
thank you.
and your path sounds like it was very organic. Like you just leaned into who you are. I think that really aligns with what Annie teaches her clients in authenticity, like being true to yourself. But what I also hear you saying is who we are in this moment isn't necessarily who we were, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even like a year ago. But we can really open up to what's here in this moment. And not having to judge ourselves for not having done something. Like Annie, you're saying, you should have found Sheldon, but like here we are right now, we're connected. And that's just going to lead to the next great thing. So I really like that there's that authenticity component and being a mindfulness practitioner, that you're really in the moment, like you're here about what's revealing itself right now, and how can I open to that to see what is the most skillful move for me in the next moment.
Sure. And I also think that has to do with really understand, like changing your view of things. Like, when you're in a rush, you're kind of looking down at your feet or your phone and you're running around. And then if you're stopped at a light or, waiting for the light to change, you lift your head up. The view is just completely different. The world is just completely different, right? And I am a person, and especially when I was younger, that was constantly dissatisfied. I was never happy where I was. I always wanted to be somewhere else. Even if I was winning races, it was like, okay, well, why? I got to go to States now, or I got to do this thing. It was always this kind of carrot that was moving. And, I get asked on podcasts or what have you, like, what would you tell your younger self? It's just to enjoy the view, like really look around, network from left to right, as opposed to up, right? The people that I was begging to be in rooms with at 24 are retired, gone. But meanwhile, the people that I'm sitting in classrooms with are the people that I'm building business with, right? And so really being able to pay attention, and if you're constantly searching, this goes to really specific business development and personal branding things as well. Like I was fixated with more followers, more followers, more followers, more followers. Why don't I say thank you to the people that are already in my phone? Why don't I say thank you to the people that are already following me? Let them do the work. Let them be the ambassadors of the energy that I share, as opposed to begging for people who aren't necessarily not even part. It's the same energy. The same energy you use to go and recruit is the same energy you use to nurture. The nurture is more fruitful. And so that is, I think, the mindfulness that I look to bring to the table is, let me remind the people that already know, like, and trust me who I am and what I'm doing in this moment, and allow for them to have conversations about me in my absence. That's what my definition of personal branding is what people say and think about you in your absence. That's personal branding to me. So do the people in your world have enough information in order to change your life? And then
Love
when
how you said left to right. That's like, that really impacted me just now, because when Courtney and I partner, right, it's like, I'm like not quite as mindful as she is.
Yes, you are. Yes,
I'm
you
a pretty
are.
good coach, but I'm working on mindfulness here. So we are always going. I'm a mom of 12, 14, 15, and 19. And we have a blended family, but so I never stop, right? It's like coaching and family and running the house and all the things, right? And my husband, and I have a gratitude alarm on my phone. It goes off every night at 8 o'clock. It's been doing that since my little ones were 5 and 7. The reason is because I wanted to see the view left to, like, I wanted to stop and see the view, right? And that, but you say it much more eloquently, but you that's exactly what your point is, I think. That, like, just so the alarm goes off and I just, what am I grateful for right now? Everybody, the kids come running, gratitude, like, and we just, for 30 seconds, a minute, we talk about it, right? But it's maybe that 1 minute of the day where you just look up from your phone and
just
you
look up. Just look up.
This is funny because I'm reading a book. I don't know if you've heard of a mindfulness teacher. Her name's Sylvia Boorstein. I think she just turned 88 this past week. She's really an incredible teacher, but she talks about just what you're both talking about with our perspective, where sometimes at ground level, like you said, Sheldon, we could be so caught up on our phone, or we're looking down at our feet, and that gives us one feeling, that gives us one view of things. But then she talks about, I don't think she called it cosmic, but like from up above, like when astronauts go into space and they look down at the world, and there's like literally this feeling of utter awe. Because when you change your perspective and look down
100%.
and see how grand, it can shift like how you're perceiving something in that moment. And just what you're saying, like the ability to have both, like the ability to see how we sometimes get caught up on the shoe or the phone or the social media, but how we can pull back a bit or let ourselves rest in this more expansive awareness that really can help us to channel that quality of wonder and awe, which I think just having you present in this circle, that in of itself does it for me. But
I love it.
while we're on the topic of mindfulness, can you share with us maybe something from this morning or something in your morning routine that you use with regards to mindfulness to really help you get some clarity or sort of more centered in your space?
I don't think there's any surprise. I am a morning person. Like no one needs to be a morning person. So I love to get up. I need to get up before everyone else. I am up. I don't want to hear feet. I don't want to hear what. I don't want to hear shower. I don't want to hear Mommy Can I, which is the song that is sung in this house. I don't want to hear any of it. I need to be up. I need to be centered. I need things to be put away. I like to come at the world before the world comes at me. That is what centers me. It allows, I literally sit, feet on ground, hands on the table, I breathe, and I let myself be present in the way. Because if I don't allow for that to happen, I feel like I am behind the whole entire day. I feel like I'm catching up as opposed, my day is running me versus I'm running my day, and I cannot have that. So, I mean, again, for me, that is my personal time. I like, and it's 2 hours. I mean, I'm early, so it's 2 hours before anybody I even seen it. I live a full day by the time people, the clock starts in the morning. And
you've had your breakfast and your lunch by the time.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've had 3 snacks before people have breakfast. I just feel like, for me, that works for me. I just feel like there just needs to be a sense of clarity, especially as a person who shares my energy, who shares my space, who shares my time with a lot of people throughout the day, who wants to do that, who has chosen to do that as their career. I need to be grounded enough to make that happen, right? So I can be present for those people in my life. And that includes my family. People ask all the time, how do you do it all? I only do one thing at a time. And so I'm very present. If I'm at dance, and I'm a dance mom and soccer mom, I'm at dance with my daughter, and I'm keying with the dance moms, and because I'm present in that space. I'm not checking emails in that space. When I'm checking emails, I'm checking emails. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm on stage, I'm on stage. When I'm producing, I'm producing. And so that is how I balance it. I don't balance it by being everything at the same time. I balance it by being one thing at a time. And so I utilize my mornings to reset myself. One key trick I use is I used to do to-do lists, and I still write some things down. I'm a lunatic, old school, if you want to call it that. But now I only do today lists. So I only put no more than 5 things on a list that I'm going to completely attack today. And I utilize my morning to create that today list. What am I going to do today? And then I can sleep well, because those 5 things were done. The to-do list tortured me, because it was 50 things, 5 things were done. But the today list is the 5 things, and the 5 things are complete. I can move on to additional things, but I know at least purposefully I was intentional that day. So yeah.
Question for you. You're very wise. Obviously, you've done so much. You're very, very smart. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Oh, the best piece of advice that I've ever received. It is, well, my mom, and you'll see this on my social, a lot. So it is, lean on the words of others when you can't find your own. So I live for quotes. I live for finding inspiration in things. I love to learn. I'm a forever student. It is really about, somebody has been there before. So tap into that. The other piece of advice that I love to live by, and I also teach my students this, is don't take advice from people who don't have the life that you want. And I think that there's a lot of individuals taking financial advice from their broke friends. Might not make any sense. Do you know what I mean? You're taking
My wealth manager husband might say the same thing.
Exactly, right? Like, tap into that. That doesn't mean disregard these people. But it does mean just departmentalize what they're saying to you, right? And the value of the words in which they're saying, and then tap into expertise. I think that this world has really has done a disservice to experts, right? Claiming everyone is an expert in everything. I think that really tapping into people who have spent time, and respect those who are spending time to learn a trade and craft, learn along with them, be a forever student is really important. So I answered that a couple times, but I do think that really, be conscious of who you're allowing to move and motivate you, and just really look to surround yourself with words that serve you and people that serve you, and lift your head up, enough for you to recognize who's serving you and who's not. And that is hard, right? And sometimes those people are the closest to you that aren't necessarily benefiting you in the way to get you closer to where it is you want to be. So I don't think that we should let go of those people, but I do think we should departmentalize what they're saying and how we're receiving it and what we'll do with it. Hopefully that helps. I don't know.
Completely. I mean, definitely nailed it.
Okay.
And I have a serious passion for words, so I'm with you.
Thank you.
I saw a post, speaking of, you mentioned time, and something that really resonated for me, a quote that I saw that you shared on, I believe it was Instagram,
Yeah.
and it's a powerful one because I think we've spoken about this during other episodes that
Yeah.
we set our eye on the prize, which is great. Like it helps us to stay motivated and to get clarity of what it is we want to achieve. But at the same time, if we don't get there when we say we should be there or we want to be there, there can be a lot of negative self-talk. And one of the quotes that you posted is just because it's taking time doesn't mean it isn't happening.
100%.
And that I like even just saying it gives me chills.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that
No,
because
yeah.
I wrote it down.
But I think it's important. And I think that, we're in the midst of the Olympics, right now. And then when this is being recorded, and I always think of these athletes that in a lot of cases wait years and years to perform for 60 seconds, to perform for 2 minutes, dedicate their whole lives, rework their bodies, sacrifice time spent and money and resources and meals and candy, right? For these opportunities and these particular scenarios. And, if you want to build something that is going to create generational wealth, that is going to set you, your family up, how in the world could that happen in 6 months? How in the world could you, how in the world could you reap the benefits of all of that in a 6-month period of time? I'd love to say that it's the smartest people that are the most successful. I think it's the most persistent. I think it's the people who continue to show up, that continue to get here early and leave late and just keep after it for themselves. And so the race, oftentimes we set the timer, right? It was funny, years ago, it was about 2 years ago, we had to move a big event around. And I just woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I made this up. Like, if I want to move it, I can move it. Like we had put together this deadline and we were so hell-bent on this deadline, but I had created the deadline.
Right.
I had created the deadline. It didn't come from anywhere else. And I think we often forget that we are the storytellers, that we get to write the books and we get to rewrite the chapters and we get to be able to do that. And once we realize that the power belongs to us, it kind of frees us to make additional decisions. And so,
That's the awareness piece. If we're not
For sure.
aware of it, then we get
100%.
controlled by the story we tell ourselves. So
100%.
great.
Courtney and I talk about that constantly. Like, is that a fact or is that a story? It's like so many of my clients, when I'm coaching them, I'm like, do you see how you completely created this story that you don't really know is true? And it just, that's exactly what I think you're talking about. So that
I love that. No, I love that. I love that. That beautiful. I love that. Is that a fact or is that a story? Oh, love it.
Yeah.
All the time it's a story, by the way.
Yeah. Every time. Every time.
Every time.
Every time it's a story. Yeah. And then what are the stories and what kind of stories can you tell? And I always say, like, no one wants to buy that book, like the Book of Perfection. Nobody buys that. That's not a blockbuster film. Like, you're rich, she was rich, everybody's rich. No one's watching that. Like, there's no lessons in that. There's nothing that, especially for those of us who are teachers, right? Who I love educational entertainment. You both are coaches and you're really like, there is no lessons in the perfection of things. Like, there is nothing for you to give. So even when I'm in the darkest times, I'm like, now I'm being really driven because now I have the lessons to be able to teach others, to be able to help others. Without those lessons, without those valleys, it's just like, work a little harder, but like, no, this is what I did when I was in the valley and now I'm not, right? And this is what I did to be able to figure it out, or this is what others did to be able to figure it out. There's no lessons in perfection all of the time. So
that's where there's I think the most potential for learning and growing and healing is when you dive down and you can explore that and be with that. Yeah.
It only lives there. Like I always say, again, in the height, I'm obsessed with the Olympics. I've always been, but Simone Biles practices every day. Every day.
I like almost cried last night when she got hurt. Like, even though she'll be fine, I was like, no.
Like, no, right? And every day, LeBron, Tom Brady, it doesn't matter who your iconic athlete is. They still go to practice. As good as they are, as many trophies as they have. So
minus Iverson, we can't include Iverson in there.
Right. Listen, AI is AI, but I will tell you, speaking of locally, Kobe, rest in peace. There was nobody that's always there 2 hours before everybody, always there late. That was his whole message. Like, what did I do? Was I the best? I don't know, but I practiced more. All
But I
I did was
practice
practice
more
it.
and I was in it. I was in what it is. And I think that that goes back to that expertise. I'm in it. I'm in it. Like it. So, you know, I'm driven. I love women. I love what we have the capability to do. I understand what we can do when we're, you know, when we're tired, what we can do. Needless to say, what we can do when we are fresh, when we work together, when we can figure it out. And I think that that's all what we want. I think we just want the best space and time for us all, for our children, for our partners, for our husbands, we just want the best. And I think we deserve it. And so how can I better help people to be armed for that? How can I allow for people to be brave enough, not only just safe, but brave in what it is that they say about themselves, to be able to talk about themselves in a way that they're proud of. Yeah.
The overarching message of this entire thing for me is
Yeah.
like, you teach, you live, you are
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
present, and everything you do, you're there. You say you
Yeah.
show up. You say, if I'm checking emails, I'm checking emails. If I'm at dance, I'm at dance, right? Like,
Yeah.
and Courtney, obviously with mindfulness, we try to teach presence to people,
Yeah.
right? So like, we're
Yeah.
all in this game together of
Yeah.
trying to show people how to be there where they are at that moment, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's the flavor, I think, of, I know from my experience with your community, is that you have each other's backs.
Yeah.
And what more could a group of women, or any
Yeah.
group of individuals, human beings, want than that support
Yeah.
to feel that connection and that empowerment. So
Yeah.
Sheldon, thank you for all of this really helpful information
It's so
and
much
for
fun.
sharing your time. If listeners want to connect with you and learn more about your work, or how you can strengthen them, their personal brands, and help them to generate more results, how's the best way to, or how are the best ways to connect with you?
Of course, we are everything at This Is It TV. Everything at This Is It TV. You can log on to thisisit.tv.com. Again, our blog, our information, thisisitTV.com/scream your dream has more information on personal branding and how I can help you in elevating your voice. But everything This Is It TV, you can find me or search the hashtag scream.
You're on the wrong website if you don't see her beautiful face pop up right on the screen. Type in This Is It TV. There she is.
So you know you're in the right place. Everything I teach, I use. Everything I teach, I use. Branding, imagery, like hashtags, all the things.
That's right. You're the face of the brand, right? I mean,
I am.
You're it.
I am. So it's been so fun, and I'm so excited for this. But please reach out if you have any questions, or if you just need a little bit of inspiration, motivation. We're here to help.
Love it. And ditto to you.
Of course.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I'm excited for the new studio. It's in my backyard, and looking forward to jumping on the next Scream Your Dream call with you. So
I love it.
thanks,
Thanks so much for
Sheldin.
having me.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you soon.